similar to video calls, I should say I'm visible, or do I need to? Yeah, okay, visible, audible, yeah. Okay, so while they put it up, Vishnu reached out to me that, we're doing this thing and ICAI has this AI committee and we'd really love for you to be part of this, right? So I said, Vishnu, I'm really happy, but I'm also a little sad. I'm sad because the Company Secretary Institute doesn't do any such thing. So Vishnu says, you're a company secretary. And I'm like, yeah. So then there's a long pause, right? Vishnu takes like a week or two to get back to me. Ki, Arey, aapko hum bula sakte hain, nahi, kaise hoga? So, but chalo, thankfully I'm here, so it worked out in the end, right? But I'll tell you what changed. So there is one thing that changed. So I told Vishnu, मैंने CPT किया है. I've done CPT. So he's like, okay. Then you are 1/3 CA, so you can come. So I am here as a 1/3 CA in front of you. There's something tricky in this 1/3 CA problem. So I said, मैंने training नहीं किया है. So how much of a CA does that make me? So Vishnu is like, sir, very simple, 1/4. Now think about this harder. I know it starts with a very lighter moment. Think about this a little harder. You're all CAs, right? ACA, FCA, मतलब CS वाले में ऐसा लिंगो रहता है, ACA, FCA जो भी आप हैं. What part of your being a CA is attributable to the exams you passed? What part is attributable to the training you underwent? I think 2 years, 2.5, 3 years, something like that. It kept changing, so I don't know the exact number. What part is attributable to that? What part of your current professional incomes would you attribute to the education, 3 milestones, the training where you did, the companies where you worked at, the exposure you've had, and of course the messes that you've been through. More messier you've been through, the better you are as a CA, as a CS, any professional, honestly, for that matter. And this is at the heart of what I just wanted to share with all of you for maybe 5-7 minutes. Why should anybody pay a professional? Right? I'm a CS, so it's nothing against you. Why should anybody pay a professional? Right? It's a very difficult question to answer now. Is it the knowledge of tax laws that we have? Because AI does a fairly good job at it, right? Could it be some tips and tricks to save tax? Trust me, AI probably does a better job than ICAI on that, right? Maybe not the best job of the best CA that we have, but मेरे जैसा जो कोई बेचारा होगा उससे AI is better, right? So what does a CA like me look forward to in the era of AI, where information that till date was our defining point? You go in Delhi Metro, I'm from Delhi, you go in Delhi Metro and you see students, right? Happy students going around, I say light bags and all. Whenever you see a sad student downtrodden with a big bag, that student is going for a CA training class, right? Because there are so many books, then there are notes, then there are coaching class notes, right? So knowledge was our defining point. When I say our, I mean it for the entire fraternity. And, okay, is it there? Is it working? Oh, it's working, yeah. Okay, great. Has it stopped working? Okay, great. AI is built on top of IT. Till we don't figure out IT, we can't figure out AI. So anyhow, knowledge used to be our central defining point. Knowledge is why somebody comes to us, because we are knowledgeable, we are respected in our families. This is a difficult exam to go through. Exams check our knowledge. Training allows us to build something. A lot of that is now being democratized to a very, very large extent, right? You can do procedures, you can do form filing. By the way, on form filing, I don't know how many of you have tried Perplexity Comet. Anybody who's tried the Comet browser? Comet can fill forms. You upload 5 details about you, Comet can fill forms, right? So why do I bring this up? Because so my CA, the person who does my returns, I'm a company secretary, but I can't do my returns. The person who does my returns, so मैंने ऐसे बोला, Golu is what I call him, he's a younger brother. मैं कहा, गोलू तुम्हारा तो प्रोफेशन क्या? तो गोलू says, आप जितना मर्जी नॉलेज कर लो, भरवाओगे तो मुझी से ना. So there are two inherent flaws with this model, यार. One flaw with this model is that the hourly billing rate model will never make anybody wealthy is still a hard word, but make anybody rich or even enough to sustain as a reputed professional, right? And that in itself is also going, right? This is the worst this technology is, right? 1 month later, this technology is going to be much better, right? Pragya was here, OpenAI comes out with their agentic browser. It's currently in beta testing. I think it's going to change a lot, right? So what is it that we are all going to earn out of, right? As simple as that. Some of you accept the problem, some of you might not. It's okay to disagree. That's how we all grow, yeah? I wanted to bring in something similar. I'm a PhD, so in terms of research, you look at, has this happened before, right? So there was this one example that hit me that happened before. That was medicine. Doctors were these respected reservoirs of knowledge, sole gatekeepers of knowledge, right? And the idea was that doctor knows best, okay? Patients would know hardly anything except for, oh, this uncle of mine got a similar operation. These are the 5 things doctor said, haath upar karo, meetha khao, namak kam kar do, and all that, right? Now, once WebMD came in, and looking at most of your faces, you all know WebMD, right? When I do this in current student sections, nobody knows WebMD. But yeah, so you all know WebMD, right? If anything happens, they say you are going to die, right? But everybody would put their symptoms on Google and try to see what WebMD says, right? In that sense, WebMD democratized medical knowledge that we all had. WebMD had 50% of the patients in the Western world used WebMD in 2000 before going to a doctor. I'm not saying instead of going to a doctor, because survey was run in clinics, right? So we don't have that data, right? So a lot of people did that. And Abhi, I know a lot of our clients today are basically doing this. They will see online ki acha kya hai. A lot of times they will call us just to check isko pata hai ki nahi, right? They will call to check ki, oh, what do you say? And sometimes they will say, acha, aisa nahi hota hai, section 38 mein exemption ab nahi mil raha hai, ab nahi hai kya? They're just trying to test whether you are as aware as their AI is, which in a lot of cases is available free of cost with very little prompting gyan, honestly, in that, right? A lot of people also felt that the WebMD or their online sources were better or equal to the doctor, right? I would suggest it is probably a higher number when it would come to our clients looking at our practices today and the value that we are adding, right? You also, of course, had a lot of things that came about. People started having their own cyberchondria, their own, ki acha, mujhe ye ho gaya, I'm going to do this, this is going to happen. So many comedy movies on this, right? And initially, the medical profession did panic, right? And they started giving it names. A lot of people started saying, no, don't trust online, that is not correct, and this and that. They tried this entire bit, right? It didn't really work very well. It didn't really work very well, right? But what did happen was that doctor visits did not go down. Medical visits did not go down. The profession strengthened. The medical profession strengthened rather than weakened, right? New service models started emerging, right? And I will, of course, bring this back to how we all as professionals can also do better at this, right? They started having patients who became part of the treatment now, for good, for bad. It did involve people having to think more. For any professional, CA, doctor, lawyer, teacher, they dislike it when the target audience starts to tell them anything, right? I teach AI at IIT Bombay, right? I've been teaching AI for about 5 years now, and last year the course coordinator said to me, ki the batch is saying, ki, sir, why don't you tell them upfront in the class what they will be learning and then teach, right? My teaching method is teaching by surprise, ki, oh, this happened, right? So I'm like, okay, very good. I took the feedback. Now, what does any good professor do when they get feedback? They ignore it because the professor knows best, right? So whenever this happened, the medical profession also had to put in a lot more mind space into dealing with patients' valid queries, right? And while it did cost them mental bandwidth, it did allow them to co-create treatments to have patients that were better aware of the treatments that were coming in, right? Passive to active. So the doctors became information interpreters rather than information providers, right? Our role as information providers, as primary sources of information, is going to change, right? And that's done. That's probably already happening with many of us, right? Uh, huh. These are some of the things that they had done. They shifted the value proposition. Relationships became big. So you all, of course, understand relationships very well because you learn a lot of that in your training. You learn that in your professional life. For doctors, life was simpler. We, of course, have had a better upbringing, so we know much more about how relationships with clients work. एक file आ जाती है तो नहीं देनी है, उसके और काम भी कराने हैं. Get other files also. These are very good professional learnings that we have that will suit us well in the AI world, right? I think they figured out that you couldn't use WebMD for treatment. You couldn't use WebMD for surgery. You could use WebMD for basics, but can't use it for surgery. And what is that equivalent for us? The equivalent for us in that case is M&A, right? Nobody is going to trust any AI, the best AI models for M&A, right? When you are in a dispute, in a difficult situation, you will probably want somebody to hold your hand and say, koi baat nahi, we'll get over it, right? As simple as that sounds, this is something that AI currently lacks, right? AI is smarter than all of us. Please also don't think ki, oh, nahi, mere ko jitna pata utna AI ko nahi pata. Please don't look at that. AI has the world's knowledge at its disposal, right? So we are not going to compete with AI. This is like saying I can beat AI at chess. No, we can't beat AI at chess, right? But having AI play chess has not reduced the thrill that we have of Pragnananda beating Magnus Carlsen, right? So the human feelings, the human relationship, human connect, the human narrative will probably still remain, right? They became coordinators across multiple providers. The answer for us in that, the learning for us is how do we collate information about the client that we know that people are otherwise very lazy to input, right? So for example, AI will give you a great output, but you will have to disclose a lot of those things. You will have to input a lot of those things. India is not a typing first nation. So we are very lazy with typing. We'd rather do a voice note. Even in voice note, we sometimes just out of lethargy and laziness, we say ki, ठीक है, जितना हो गया इतने में बता दो मुझे जो बताना है, right? Whereas with humans, we like to keep talking. Somebody gets the mic, they don't leave it, right? Humans like to talk, so that is the extra source of information that we have. That is the knowledge we have. There is, of course, a large component of using AI and automation for your work, right? I'm not going to touch a lot upon that. I'm sure you all know that there are so many startups outside, so many innovations. Google's there, there's Argus, so many others that will help you do your work better. Sure, all that is there. So automation, I'm not talking about automation. I'm talking about the knowledge centrality threat that AI is bringing us, right? These are some things that did not work for the medical profession. Dismissing the patients or maintaining paternalistic I know better models did not work. They will not work for us also, right? These are just some suggestions from my side, what we could do. I think judgment is still something that humans will have. While AI can give you knowledge and 5 different models will give you 6 different answers, I think the wisdom will remain with us about choosing, about interpreting, about understanding some of these ideas. I think business impact analysis of compliance decisions this is going to be very big. Planning is going to be important. From forms to strategy, this is using Golu's example of where we want to be on that value chain, right? Even if you were to invest, I'll give you a very simple idea on this. If you were to invest one whole day, 8 hours, one whole day in getting an awesome 2-page prompt, invest one day in getting an awesome 2-page prompt that gives you a report that is valuable for your client. Trust me, you are irreplaceable with 80% of your clients. One day of prompting. Why? Because the inertia that you and I have on, "Arey yaar, theek hai na, jitna ho gaya, that's it," is the inertia that our client also has. But our client doesn't get paid to do it, right? We get paid to do it. If we are able to create that one good prompt, I feel we'll be in a much better position, right? Business advisory, risk, I think this is the regular Gyan jo Institute also keeps giving you, so I'll not repeat any of this. Relationship-based models, long-term, trusted advisor status, again, something the Institute would have told you. Look at how we can integrate it. Please use agentic browsers. Please use AI. Because if you don't know what is available for free in the market at state-of-the-art level, anybody who walks into you, you will be mind-blown thinking, wow, yaar, to aapka CA number 3-digit hai kya? Right? Because you wouldn't know that, right? And I would really urge all of you to know these things. If a client comes tomorrow and says, this is possible using this tool, why don't you do it, right? Please be at the cutting edge of this. I'm so happy to know you have a level 2 also in AI. Amazing, amazing initiative on that. Focus human effort on complex scenarios. Use AI for research. Please don't be away from AI. I know some of us keep thinking ki if we give our data to AI, it will become your data is with some company or the other, right? So please don't try to think ki hum AI se apna data bacha ke, I don't know what we'll try to save. There are safeguards to this, yes, but let that not be an impediment for your AI use to make you more efficient, right? I think specialization and complexity is important. M&A is going to be very key. They can't use AI for M&A. They might use some gyan for that, but your role is going to be important. I said AI has the world's knowledge at its disposal, right? What does it not have knowledge of? It does not have knowledge of the future. It does not have knowledge of a lot of implications of things that have not happened, right? If you can become more futuristic, if you can become more future-looking in terms of what impact emerging technologies will have, emerging tech regulation, AI regulation, Nishit Desai Associates, I'm sure a lot of you have heard, Nishit Desai Associates? No? Okay. It's a law firm based on a very simple premise, we defend innovation. We defend innovation, that's it. The world's most complex innovation cases, how does technology work, AI, privacy, virtual data, virtual reality, facial recognition, big data. The entire firm is based on that. Global multinational firm, Indian guy, Indian ethos, amazing opportunity, completely a guideline for all of us about building this entire bit, right? So please build your knowledge, your expertise on emerging tech, and please become much, much better at presenting ideas. AI right now cannot do human presentations. I think we can do that. As a professional community, we need to build that. The future will be for those who can synthesize AI knowledge, not just access it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Preetdeep Singh. That was great. May I please request Dr. Ganesh Natarajan to please come on the stage and give it. Thank you.
Can you get my presentation loaded, please? Can you get my presentation loaded?
Yes.
Can you check? I sent it 3 days back. Presentation. Very good afternoon to all of you. And while they are hunting for my presentation, I didn't know CAs took so long to hunt for information. But maybe there is a pattern to this. But let me start by giving you a little background of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about very high level stuff. High level as in, how do you look at AI? Almost what you said about synthesis and not just plain looking at AI and trying to audit it or whatever. And that starts from the companies that I run. I mean, I'm chairman of Honeywell Automation, which is based out of Pune, but it's a global company. And that primarily works on AI for manufacturing. So today when you look at large process plants, let's say Saudi Aramco in Saudi Arabia, the entire monitoring of the process plant, looking at what will go wrong, what can go wrong, what should you replace much before it goes wrong. I wish they had done that in Air India 117. But this is something that we do for a living. How do you monitor and predict what can go wrong? The second, of course, I mean, we've just listed our company called GTT Data Solutions on the Bombay Stock Exchange. And this is a company which primarily focuses on the synthesis area that he mentioned, which is dual intelligence. The assumption being that AI by itself will keep eating away jobs and will keep doing a lot of stuff. But AI combined with the human in the loop, which is exactly what we recommend that people do, creates a kind of dual intelligence force that is A, much faster, it can deliver results much more accurately, and at the same time can be within control. In fact, I had the privilege 1 month back to be in New York talking to Professor Yuval Noah Harari. I don't know how many of you are aware of him. His books are absolutely fantastic. He wrote Sapiens, he wrote a book called Homo Deus, and then the most recent book is on AI, which is Nexus. And Professor Harari's point is also the same, that look, while we all celebrate AI, we have to be very careful on how it grows, because if it is completely unchanneled and unsupervised and ungoverned, which is what many countries are worried about, then you have a real problem on your hands in terms of what could happen. So I think what we're really talking about is how do we manage it well, because managed well, I think AI is a superior force, and that's something we're all aware of. So let me take you through a few slides just to explain what I'm saying. This is the, I don't try and read it, it's too big, but I can, any one of you who wants, we can send you the presentation. But essentially, this has been the progress of AI. If you look at one reason why AI is important today, it is predictive power. And if you look at this busy slide, you'll find that for many years, I started my career in Crompton Greaves in Nasik, and we were all given reports and bar charts and pie charts and everything else. But all of it was what we call descriptive analytics, which means what happened in the past. So we were very clear about what went wrong with production last month, what was the material shortages, etc. But nobody told us that, look, how to prepare a production plan for the next month that will optimize the labor resources, that will optimize material resources, so on and so forth. So if you look at the upper parts of the chart, this is where AI has come in. That from data as utility and what is written there, what happened, which is post-mortem analysis, to much more of understanding the data as enabler. Why did it happen? So that analytics tells you what can happen. And then you will find that what will happen is predictive analytics. In fact, if there is, as I said, prediction is the main capability of AI today. Whether it's generative AI, agentic AI, and we'll touch briefly upon that, I think that's a real value that AI can bring to you. And from there, it's moved to what should happen, which is optimized action, and what is really possible, which is the scenario building that AI does. So predictive and prescriptive analytics is what you should keep in mind. And as you, as finance experts, as you go into a company, see how they are doing prediction. Because if they're doing it wrong, what they call hallucinating AI, then they can take them into completely different directions, something to be very, very worried about. So if you look at customer journeys, and this is something that all marketeers today are thinking about, the original customer journey, which was, let's look at a retail store, for instance. Somebody walks into a shop, likes a dress, she buys it, maybe comes back, tries it on, doesn't like it, maybe goes back and replaces it. But today, the day is coming when there is no purchasing decision that is actually taken in the shop. People will walk into a shop, whether it's the latest Tesla showroom in Bombay or whether it's a retail store, to look at what is available. The actual buying decision will be taken on Amazon later, because then they will do price discovery, they will look at what is comparable, what is cheaper, etc., which is why you're finding that most of people are now buying on the internet. And what is happening here is that when you're building an AI system, people have to look at where technology can touch your decision making literally at every point in the cycle. And that's what predictive analytics is. Let me give you another example. If you look at learning, for instance. For a very long period of time, we had sessions like this, classrooms and conferences, etc. But today, if you take a bunch of, let's say, 25-year-olds and put them in a classroom for 8 hours, half of them will not be listening. Half of them will be on their phones. The ubiquitous WhatsApp will take over anything, however great a presenter you are. So I think that's important to remember. So in that context, how do you motivate this young lady who has joined a company 4 years back to learn? The whole idea is to use AI to be interactive. So what we call the AI bot here, we're actually building this technology. AI bot will engage with the young lady saying, okay, what do you want to become? What's your interest area? And we'll kind of craft out that, look, this young lady wants to be this. This is her learning journey. This is what the skills she should acquire, what she should actually reinforce, and then builds a completely personalized learning path, including maybe workshops like this to attend, and of course, a lot of e-learning to do, and works with her right for the next 3 years to build her career. This is possible today. It was absolutely impossible even 2 years ago. And a lot of learning, a lot of recruitment, a lot of activities in human resources are being managed entirely or maybe 90% through AI. So let's get to the meat of the issue. Before I started, the lady was asking questions and said that, look, whatever 99999 she'll still stay 2. Sadly, that is the reality of AI today. We all hype OpenAI and Sam Altman and generative AI, but don't forget, generative AI succeeds in its ability to predict what you want to know rather than giving you the right answer. So it is not always accurate. And in extreme cases, it's hallucination. So that's really where we are seeing that The traditional LLM model, what India is now building through Sarvam, which is a multi-language LLM model, the large learning model, it actually generates lists and recommendations within the constraints that you give it. And the more it learns, the more its ability to predict what you want and give you what you want. And it can, I mean, the word prompt was used. I mean, prompt engineers are basically prompting AI to say, what is the next, complete my sentence, what is the next thing that I need to know, etc., etc. What is interesting is that today the AI agentic, or agentic AI as we call it, is going that one step further. That an agent can now, I mean, generative AI could tell you what hotels to book when you're traveling to Europe. Generative AI will actually go and do the booking for you. And what is called autonomous AI, which is really what is now becoming, is that autonomous AI will not only book what you want to book, it will know your preferences. It knows that you don't want to take a morning flight, no flight before 9 o'clock. So it will narrow the choices based on its understanding of your behavior and be your partner. Which is why people are saying that, and it's actually happening, that a lot of people are preferring AI to be a psychological counselor than humans, because AI has not had a bad night. AI is your AI, will actually work with you in a personalized manner, will give you advice based on what it thinks you need to do. And I think it's becoming very powerful. Recently there was an article, I think, in Economic Times which talked about how to make these changes happen. And so this autonomous AI agent is what you should think about, because we are ourselves working in the US on a fraud detection software, which is a conversational AI bot in discussion with you as somebody who's the kind of fraud manager. But the conversational AI bot has 14 autonomous AIs working for it. Each agent will go out and say, what is the likelihood of fraud in this transaction? Will come with 3 scenarios. The conversational AI will then decide which scenario to present to you and present you the right scenario. So that likelihood of success is at least 2 times more than a human being just making a guess. And the human is still in the loop, because the conversational AI is not taking the decision, it's just telling you that this is what I recommend. So it's extremely powerful, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't think we can ignore AI at this point of time. So let's come to your point of view. I mean, many of you will probably be CAs, auditing firms, etc., etc. What should you be looking at? When you go to a company which says, I'm implementing agentic AI, and we have this fantastic stuff going on in the organization, what are the pitfalls? What are the agendas that you should look out for? Characteristics of leading organizations. Remember that any leading organization today, not an AI organization, but an AI using organization, will be shifting to enterprise, what we call game-changing AI. Now, game-changing AI is not going to be 400 people using ChatGPT. It's actually going to be redesign the entire process of the company. Whether it's the production process, as I explained we do in Honeywell, whether it's the retail process, which I explained, or any other process, and saying how does AI get embedded in this process? And strategic foundations of infrastructure, governance, the ecosystems for AI, all that needs to come through in the same picture. Most companies today are accelerating AI, which is something you should all be aware of, but the wise companies are looking at some amount of caution. They're not going gung-ho and saying everything should be automated or informated, but looking at willing to forego the first mover advantage for being a little careful, because that's important. And again, as people in your profession should be advising CEOs, you don't jump headlong into AI without knowing the implications. Similarly, if you look at large enterprise, much more concerned with governance. Today, you look at any large corporation, they're very, very wary of how AI will be used in their organization. And most important, I think governance concerns can also be a big break. So your dilemma is always, how much of innovation should you look at in an organization, vis-a-vis how much of governance, how many mechanisms of control should we adopt. So this is what I call game-changing AI. So if you look at the key principles, and make sure you're auditing this. Strong data foundation. The more jumbled up your data is, the more lousy your experience with artificial intelligence will be. So a lot of the work we do in GTD data, for instance, is primarily what we call data engineering. Just making sure that the data is clean, data is ingested properly, data moves properly in the system. And these, to my mind, is something that every CA should be able to track. Saying that, look, are your data sources and your data dissemination happening properly in the organization? Moves on that business specific, I told you, I mean, you really have to re-engineer every business case. How does the data flow in the organization? Strategic partners. I mean, no organization can be the expert in all these areas. And there are a lot of amazing AI vendors, including point AI vendors. The young entrepreneurs who are building good AI point solutions. Like I was on the board of State Bank of India for many years. And our AI system is almost 40% working with an ecosystem of AI vendors who come and work with us At the same time, we have a very competent team that then finally builds out the AI solutions, and the whole YONO application, you only need one, which is State Bank's digital application, is almost entirely built on an AI platform today. And finally, balancing innovation with risk, which I mentioned. Couple of other points. I think if you look at data, tracking the data lineage, which is where is the data coming from? Is it internal data, external data? Very important for us to understand. Ensuring data liquidity, which is making sure that there is seamless access and it moves from place to place. Optimizing metadata, which is the management of the data itself. Do we have a metadata layer which is created, which is your knowledge management system? And finally, digitizing manual process, because you cannot afford to have a little bit of spreadsheets here, some ERP, SAP or Oracle there, and all linking together, because all this is going to question the data veracity. So a couple of other points, and I'll close. What is the leadership style that we should look at? Remember I talked about dual intelligence earlier. So the dual intelligence leader understands AI. There is a cliche that's going around saying the only person who lose their job to AI are people who don't understand AI. If you understand it, you know how to control it, you know how to master it. So enhanced human intelligence, systematic or systemic application of AI, this is the combination that you should be looking for in any organization, your own organization, as well as the organizations you're working with. So managing risks, look at accuracy risk, I mentioned this on data. Human oversight, so maintaining appropriate guardrails, monitoring systems to control the entire AI development process. Security threats and regulatory compliance, because I think the regulators will also come down very hard on AI applications. So you have to be clear that you understand what a SEBI or a finance ministry wants to make sure that everything is in compliance with what is the expectation of the regulator. Finally, mentioning AI's return on investment, I think it's extremely important to focus on both hard ROI, which is what companies should be looking for, not just you, and soft ROI. Hard is, of course, time savings on menial tasks, which is bound to happen with AI. Measuring productivity increases, cost reduction. So these are your, I would say, the basic hygiene factors of artificial intelligence. Move into soft ROI, what I mentioned about the lady who's having a better learning experience, the customer who's having a better buying experience. So much more improved employee experience, increased innovation capabilities, because there's so much more information available to you to manage your organization. And finally, enhanced talent attraction. How do talent stay in the company if you're not excited about the kind of technologies they are implementing? So the mindset, as somebody has said from IDC, is shifting to using AI as an enabler and not just cost savings. And I think that is really where the change is happening. So finally, and I'll leave you with this, I mean, if you look at enterprise transformation, and when you talk to an organization, ask them whether they're doing all this. First of all, we must have a foundation for AI, which is data. Focus, scope, and strategy. Do we know what we are doing with AI, or is it just, as I said, blind experimentation? Compliance, risk, and governance, your area, which you have to be extremely cautious about when a large-scale AI implementation is happening in an organization. Operating model redesign, I talked about complete redesign of the entire process. Data and technology enablement, which is of course the core, but we should not throw the process under the sink by looking just at data and technology. Integration and orchestration along with the larger organization. Value creation and measurement, and ROI, etc. And most important, which I think a lot of companies are forgetting today, culture and talent transformation. Right from the chairman to the doorman, are people aware of what is AI doing to your organization and how do we make that happen? So I think that is what I would leave you with, saying there's enormous opportunity, but if we manage it right, if people like you are able to be wise enough to guide the organization, then we'll see great success happening. Thank you, all the best, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you very much, sir. May I please request Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, sorry, my bad, CA Narasimhan Ilangovan to please come on the stage. Thank you.
very happy and good afternoon to all of you. So generally it is told that when I am speaking to AI, it does not respond. When I speak to humans, they respond. A very happy and a good afternoon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this lovely initiative of our institute, and a very interesting topic which I've been given an opportunity to speak on, and that is on responsible AI, navigating ethics, bias, and compliance. During the course of my conversation, you'll suddenly realize towards the end, I might probably say, don't use AI. Right? So let's see that, or rather I would use that word which you see on the screen, use AI more responsibly. A quick introduction about myself. My name is Narsimhan Ilangovan. I'm a chartered accountant, been with the institute, grown with the institute as a faculty member, contributing a lot of interesting things. And that's the major reason of my knowledge and resource and wisdom. Because people ask me questions, I read a lot more. And as a result of me reading a lot more, I realize that I know very little. And I keep on reading it. And that's the sort of a infinity loop in which I always am. That was me receiving the Cloud Risk Champion Award in the year 2023, the only chartered accountant in India to receive this distinguished recognition. Thank you so much. So the interesting question is, we are probably 10 years ahead, and AI in a banking system has approved your friend's loan, but it has not approved your loan. And when you actually do a lot of research and other things, you figure out what is this, my net worth is better, my income is higher, I have regular stream of income, lot of reasons you have given, but your friend's income or a loan is approved and your loan is not approved. And when we got to know the reason, the AI algorithm told a very interesting story why your reason or why your loan is not approved. You know what is the reason? The AI said, AI has identified that you are never at home. And we as professionals know, sometimes we become paying guest on our home, right? Because we are running at a client place, we are running at different locations. Why am I telling this not being at home relevant from an AI? The AI loan algorithm, most of them have not only financial parameters to be looking into, they also have your spend patterns, they also have patterns relating to how quickly you would be or you would behave in based on situations. One of that parameter is, are you in a particular location for a reasonable amount of time? And for whatever reasons, maybe powered by your GPS, Google Maps, it says, you are everywhere around the world, very little time you are probably in your own home. Right? And that's a simple example of how the bias in the AI world can possibly trigger. And this rule might be applicable for a class of individuals and not for all individuals. And that is where, my dear friends, the interesting challenge comes up. Today, unfortunately, AI can generate anything. How many of you who are probably, when you registered over here, you got to know there is a nearby hotel venue called Hotel Orchid? And some of you are also staying there, beg your pardon. Now, assuming I ask AI to generate anything, this morning AI generated this for me. It is a reimbursement bill for my travel, which I can submit to my company for hosting the AI conference. And it has all the details, and somebody can go and probably do a Google search of the GST number. The GST number also matches. As though this is not sufficient, interestingly, AI can also generate some very, very interesting information. And this was the prompt I wrote probably about 3-4 months back. Can you create an Aadhaar card image of a male candidate, 35 years and a professional? And you know what it did? It gave me this. The moment it was generated, being very excited, I showed it to my spouse and said, hey, see, AI can generate this. I have an Aadhaar card. She looked within that and she said, are you gone mad? I said, what? What happened? How on earth this is an Aadhaar card? I said, why? This looks exactly like an Aadhaar card. Then she said, which Aadhaar card in the world has got so much clarity in the photograph? Then I understood in life, whatever may happen, AI may have the best intelligence. There is somebody who's more intelligent than that. Right? Then I said, look at this. I wrote my next prompt. Can you make a more desi version? Aadhaar check digit protocol, smudged, and 1.3 megapixel camera, because that is the camera at which you take the photograph. And what is my answer? Right? Moral of the story, a prompt is what is required to change your life for the good or the bad. And this is where the foundational concepts of ethics comes in very, very, very important. And the real interesting question is, I'm talking about the $3 trillion, rupee 3 trillion, or $40 billion question, where by 2027, that's 2 years from now, GenAI fraud losses are expected to be 40 billion. That is on the negative side. But on the other side, 92% of the finance AI initiatives are exceeding the ROI budget. That means just because GenAI is coming in, nobody is going to say, I'm going to stop the initiatives as far as the AI is concerned. Now, the biggest challenge is for you and me as finance leaders. You might be in industry, you might be in practice, you might be in consulting, you might be in audit. We are all in that AI paradox now. Do I use AI or not use AI? When to use AI, when not to use AI. In fact, there's one interesting research, probably I'll speak about that in the tomorrow's conversation, on how your brain stops working if you're using too much of AI. Right? So all of those things brings us a bigger question. And as though this is not enough, most of you know famous case laws. This is one of the famous case laws you will have to remember in the future of the world. And that case law is Buckeye Trust versus PCIT Bangalore. You know what is so special about this? This was a case law where a person in the tribunal, Bangalore Income Tax Tribunal, passed a judgment. And very interestingly, when he passed the judgment, a day later he took back the case. When they investigated what was the reason, they found out that the case law had references to a fictitious retired Supreme Court judge or one Madras High Court judgment that did not even exist. And this, my dear friends, is called hallucination. In the simplest language, hallucination is your kid at home or that youngster or maybe that junior or maybe even the article staff, with great confidence he says that I have done this, whereas in reality you know that he has not done it. Right? And that happens with all of us. And hallucination with an AI is the simplest case where it answers with utmost accuracy and confidence, whereas in reality it is incorrect and fake or maybe fictitious. Right? And this is where the bigger problem comes into picture. Right? I would have probably asked you to do this exercise, but I know here the internet is slightly slow here. I'm just going to convert this prompt into imagination. You can run the prompt a little later. Okay? I'm going to give you a simple thing. If I say, imagine a person walking in front of a bank. Just imagine for a few seconds and then come back. Now I'm going to ask you a simple question. How many of you imagined a river bank? I can hardly see some hands, maybe one or two. I said, generate an image of a person. My question to you is, how many of you imagined a woman walking in front of a bank? Almost none. This, my dear friends, is bias. Bias of an AI engine is because it has been pre-trained with some amount of information. When I say a person, the perception is that a person is referring to a male and not to a female. When I say a bank, the perception is that of a monetary bank and not of a river bank. Perhaps if I give you the second prompt or a second imagination, generate an image of a person walking in front of a bank with a heavy trekking bag. Now your mind will think, hey, trekking bag is not something which somebody will carry into a bank. Perhaps he is referring to a river bank. Are you able to understand how a simple prompt word can change the way in which AI thinks? And that is why prompt engineering is so much important, and writing the right prompt is the most important thing for you to get that outcome, right? And you could probably take a snap of this and you can go home and try it with your ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, whatever, hundreds of AI solutions are there. Which AI solution to use what? That's something which I plan to cover in tomorrow's one. I have one other session where I'll try to give you some more gist of it. But coming back to the most important thing, what are the problems which have actually occurred in the global, right? Wells Fargo, a leading bank, had a lending bias in their algorithm. As a result, they had to spend close to about $100 million in settlement and reputational damage. Now, there is an interesting word which has come up. It is called as AI washing. मतलब सबके लिए AI बोल दो. Today you want funding, you say AI है मेरे पास. Earlier, if you have seen that Amitabh Bachchan movie, तेरे पास क्या है? Somebody says मेरे पास माँ है. Today it says मेरे पास AI hai. And that is the unfortunate dynamics at which we are living with. So much so, some of you went for your tea break. Even in your tea break, you had AI. Chai, C-H-A-I. Right? So the world of AI has become very pervasive and sabke liye they're trying it. And SEC has come up with a penalty for one of these companies where they said they have an AI enabled system, whereas in reality they were actually doing a normal system. And this is called as an AI washing, right? And of course in 2024 an AI algorithm had a flash crash where some loss was there, Goldman Sachs at some talent train. There are a number of cases which I can speak on. This will keep on going. But the question is, what are the regulators doing? Now, from a regulatory standpoint, 2 or 3 things from an ideological perspective I would want to give. The first is the EU AI Act, which came up last year. Enforcement is this year. It has gone as high as 35 million euros as the fine. Right? And this is fully effective by August 26. The first part of the legislation is already effective. I'll speak about that separately. US SEC, I just spoke about it, where a case of an AI washing, they had mentioned a penalty. The Singapore Monetary Authority, MAS, have clearly mentioned certain principles which has to be mandatory for all organizations following AI related elements, which talks about fairness, efficiency, accountability, transparency, and all of those. And last is our own RBI has come up with some sort of a guidelines where they have said, I am okay to use AI, but it should be done with much, much more responsible and validation of your algorithms. And more important, do not forget the human in the loop concept where AI is generated and I'm sort of validating. Now, this is just one example to say how the EU AI Act, right, is sort of spread. And it talks about prohibited use case. February 2025, all of those prohibited use cases is not possible by any company in Europe, right? It could be like, socializing, creating a profile of people from the social media and various things like that, right? They've also come up with high risk AI, which is probably 24 months from the entry, which will probably be mid of 26, where facial recognition systems, etc., are permitted along with adequate guardrails. Limited risk AI, it is permitted in general, but you need to make sure things like deepfake, etc. do not happen. And minimal risk AI, they have sort of given some sort of a voluntary code of compliance. But the real question is, what is the solution for this? There is an interesting web page which you can probably Google, not now, a little later. It's called as a sorrybench.io. It is a very interesting pragmatic report or a calendar which talks about 44 different parameters based on which the LLM algorithms are monitored. And by the way, do you know how many LLM algorithms are there in the world today? In 2025 January, it was 800,000. As of now, one number has got added before. 18 or 1.8 million, that's roughly about 18 lakh, right? And if you want to see the number of models, you can visit a website called huggingface.co. You will get so many AI algorithms and models, you will be surprised that, oh, I never knew these existed. मेरे को ChatGPT से बिना कोई और पता नहीं था. ChatGPT is just that first fellow who did the Kodak moment or the Xerox moment or the Colgate moment, right? But interestingly, this is a good benchmark yardstick which you can consider. The second, the most important thing which I want to, in the last few slides, which I want to give as a key message, what are the foundations of responsible AI? Now, whether you're doing it for your office, your industry, your audit, or any organizations, remember 4 of these. First, your governance matters a lot. And governance to me is the person who steers the car, right? Not the driver. The driver is the person who's driving the car. Who decides the direction? It is our mind, or it is you who's sitting there, and sometimes it's your Uber or Google Maps, right? Executive oversights, organizations have ethical committees. I've seen various organizations, what they do is they sort of before an AI use case is released, they have an AI management review system and they sort of go through that. Second, building in the risk management. I'll speak about this risk management a little later. The third is compliance. How do you make sure that the AI is compliant with the law of the land? Your AI chatbot, it could be your AI use case, it could be probably taking this data from a Tally to a Zoho Books to a whatever application, pushing anywhere. How do I make sure that it has compliance? How do I have regulatory or audit trails? And very important, is the reasoning of the AI documented? And last is capability. Do my members, especially the training staff, including the new generation kids, do they know how to use it and how not to use it? That is most important, right? And do I have that sort of capability domain over there? So these are 4 pillars which I would probably mention. And what formulates the AI ethics, right? By the way, our institute has launched a wonderful publication called as the compilation of various thoughts on AI ethics, which was launched this morning. It is a good read for those of you who are interested. It will be very soon uploaded into the institute website. But yes, I use this fundamental FATEP framework, and this is something which is foundational. I've read multiple frameworks and I've realized that at the larger end, these 5 principles of AI work. In fact, I've used this framework to audit large organizations, Fortune 5 companies, where I've had an opportunity to interact with them, and all of them have sort of stuck on to these 5 things. I'll complete my presentation in a couple of minutes, right? The first one is fairness, making it very, very clear as to what, purpose, and why. Accountability, proving to whom and establishing the clear rules. Transparency, why an AI has taken a decision. Explainability, the decision-making logic, and more important, personal information, are you safeguarding it? And my last slide. Pro tips, not AI generated, from a human who's tried AI significantly. First, when you're using AI, whatever matters, what is most important is use it. If you're trusting it so much, no problem, but please make sure you verify. Second, AI is not a magic wand. Do not say, yahan par mera Excel trial balance hai, pura balance sheet bana do, pura audit bana do, pura document bana do, then it will also ask you for audit fees. So please be careful. So it is not a magic wand which can do a lot of things. There's a lot of jargon terminologies. What is an AI agent, agentic AI, custom GPT, all of those things. We'll address that probably in another session. Please be very, very careful. There is nothing called as the best AI tool. Each AI tool has its own purpose. Understand what it can do, what it cannot do. For example, some AI tools can do research, some AI tools can do deep thinking, some AI tools can just help you to generalize an answer. Bias is real, right? And unfortunately, it is sneaky, so please be very cautious. I showed you examples. Your data is your baby. Just like how you would not want to hand over your baby or your child or your most precious gift to somebody else without due care, whenever you are sharing any data to AI, please be very, very cautious on the guardrails, personal information, sensitive data, any of those. Stranger danger. Why? Because lot of us today go search on Google and say AI app for doing this. You go upload and you finish it. And the moment that happens, you are downloading a file. We don't know whether that file has a malware embedded into it. So please be very, very careful. Use only trusted websites. A website which asks you to verify you're a human or not is generally a safe website. Right? An AI website asking a human to verify you're a human or not is a safe website. Right? And watch out for digital trickery. We have a lot of things like prompt injection, data manipulation, all of those things. So please be very, very cautious. And my last key message to each of you is, AI is still a baby which is growing, right? A baby which has just learned how to walk or probably run. As much as a parent or an adult or a colleague or a friend, you would want that baby to walk safe. It is your responsibility for that baby's action. Thank you so much for being a very, very patient audience. We'll probably connect offline. I'm there for the next couple of days for question answers. Thank you.